Welcome back to the Adam Schefter Podcast, the final podcast of what has been a very memorable 2024 with a great football season and great help from my friends on this show, Ty Schmit, Dan Stanzik, Sarah Abbott, Christina Buswell, you, the listener, for tuning in. I want to thank everybody in advance as we lead into this final podcast of 2024. Joining us today, coming off the news of the month, maybe the news of the season, that Bill Belichick has fled the NFL to go to college to coach at North Carolina. And with that in mind, we figured it would be appropriate to reach out to Bill Belichick's most outstanding defensive player that he ever coached, who also happened to attend North Carolina, the great Lawrence Taylor, a two-time Super Bowl champion who won the NFL's most valuable player in 1986 at linebacker, a three-time defensive player of the year, a man who had 20 and a half sacks in that great year in 1986 and 7 straight years of double-digit sacks. Lawrence Taylor will come by today to talk about the type of impact that his former defensive coordinator with the Giants will have at his alma mater. And of course, we'll be joined by Ty Schmit of the Pat McAfee Show as we venture into another weekly six-pack.
Appreciate it, Shefty. You mentioned it, holiday season. This is the best time of the year. It's personally my favorite time of the year. And this year, we got unbelievable games lining up during the stretch run. Got the college football playoff. The next several weeks should be pretty special. But let's jump right into topic number one of the six-pack. You mentioned it. It has been such a memorable year. So many things, but out of everything that's happened this year, what has been, the one or two or few things that have really stood out to you about this season?
I think we are seeing a change, Ty, in the way that society and athletes behave. And let me refer back to you a couple of incidents, a few different incidents that have happened this year, just to group them all together. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've seen a couple of players refuse to enter games. We saw Deontay Johnson do it in Baltimore. We saw Devondre Campbell do it in San Francisco. We saw a quarterback tapping out of a game, which we've never seen. We saw a coach going after fans. And I don't know if we could put one big ribbon around all this behavior, but I think of this. We're getting more and more college players. We're making more and more money and getting more and more entitled and having a little bit more and more of a warped sense of reality. Enter the NFL. They get to do what they want in college. It's going to be that way at the NFL. Now, these players are not paid yet, so it's different. But there has to be some sort of connection somewhere along the way. I don't mean to go all societal professor on you or anything like that, but people doing what they want and not caring. Do we ever remember players refusing to enter games, no less 2 in back-to-back weeks? Do we remember quarterbacks tapping out? Head coaches going after fans? People doing whatever they want? Consequences be damned? Am I making up something here? Is there some sort of trend that you see here, Ty? Or am I the only one that's thinking about it in a way that more and more people are going to be doing whatever the hell they want to do and they don't really care?
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Shefty. And I mean, NFL, obviously, but I think that's society at large. I mean, just look at how people act on Twitter, saying anything you want to anyone, and there are no repercussions, unless you have one of those rare situations where their employer gets a hold of it. But by and large, people can say whatever they want unchecked. And I think a big part of it, I think you're right. I mean, look at the transfer portal right now. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you're up to your eyeballs in news at all times trying to break stuff. I look at some of these college football insiders who deal with the transfer portal and stuff like that. I don't know how they do it. It's every 10 seconds. There's a 4-star, 5-star prospect who's a freshman, has 3 years of eligibility, 4 years of eligibility, and they're bouncing around $1 million here, $5 million here. I mean, I think it's going to get much worse over the next few years.
That's my point. I think we're going to see more players refuse to enter games. More players tell their coaches to go screw off. More players acting out in ways and us seeing things that we hadn't seen before. Again, I don't remember a year in where these type of actions occurred all together, all at once. And I think it's just starting. It's just starting. It's going to get worse. There are going to be regular stories of behavior from players and coaches that we never, ever would have gotten, because that's kind of what we're getting in society today, right? We're getting that type of people engaging in brazen acts that you would never imagine, because that's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you hope that it kind of ends with, hey, as long as an NFL team's culture is good enough and you have vets in the locker room. But I mean, like, look at and granted, Devondre Campbell isn't really in this, because he's an older guy. It's not like he's one of these guys in the younger generation, but you don't think of the 49ers as having a bad culture. You wouldn't think that this would be the kind of thing that would happen over there. So, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I think you're right. I think over the next 3 to 5 years, you got these guys coming into the NFL who are already making $10 million. Unless you have a very strong-willed head coach, organization, or a bunch of vets in the locker room who can be like, hey, this isn't the way this goes up here. I think we're going to see a lot more of this.
There even was a replay in the Eagles' victory over the Steelers where they showed Nick Sirianni going towards Jalen Carter on the sideline. Now, I understand Jalen Carter was mad and worked up because he had been hit twice during the game, two guys hitting him in the helmet, and he then punched the guy in the helmet, got caught, and Nick Sirianni went over to him. But the way that Jalen Carter reacted to his boss, I'm just telling you, I would never show that type of behavior, that type of facial reaction, that type of condescending dismissiveness to a superior of mine. Like, his look said, I don't know what he was saying. Actually, yeah, get out of my face. Leave me alone. That's what his look said to me. And it's just a continuation of players refusing to enter games, quarterbacks tapping out, coaches going after, like, everything about it. I'm just telling you, we have just scratched the surface. More is coming.
I couldn't agree more. And at least the football is entertaining. So it's not just, all.
That's great. It's great. I'm just telling you, we are entering into a new frontier.
I think so too. People went crazy about the whole Eli Manning situation. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what quarterbacks do damn near every year. They don't like their situation. Nope, not doing it. Find someone else. Trade me. I think that's going to happen a lot more often. Or we're going to see guys decide to come back another year and go in the transfer portal. And I'll take $10 million from some college school and put off the NFL. We'll see. It's crazy. No one knows how to forecast it. Let's move on to topic number 2, Shefty. Massive news in the NFL. Kirk Cousins officially has been benched. Something we have been talking about for quite a while now with his, kind of, I don't even want to say up and down play. It's been more so down play and the pressure to put in Michael Penix. It officially happened. What's the future for Kirk Cousins look like?
Well, Ty, let's think about it like this. When Raheem Morris made the announcement, he said that Michael Penix Jr. is the Falcons starting quarterback, quote unquote, moving forward. In other words, Kirk Cousins is not coming back. Michael Penix is the guy they are moving forward with now and in the future. And so now it's obvious that Kirk Cousins' time in Atlanta, barring some injury, barring some unforeseen circumstance, is done based off what the head coach is saying. He will be moving on. So if we look at it, if they want to designate Kirk Cousins as a post-June 1 cap casualty, he would count $40 million in dead money against their cap in 2025 and $25 million in 2026. That's $65 million in dead money to carry, which, by the way, the Denver Broncos this season are carrying 80.1 in large part because of Russell Wilson's, I believe, $53 million cap charge. So the Denver Broncos have shown that it can be done. But the problem there is that the Falcons have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and they lose some of the value of a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract because that's now going to Kirk Cousins rather than you being able to go buy pieces. Like when the 49ers had Brock Purdy, they could go spend all that money on Nick Bosa and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and all the players that they afforded to pay. The Falcons have already given that money to Kirk Cousins. Now, if they go to trade him, and you might say, who's going to trade for Kirk Cousins? Well, I actually have had a couple of people ask me during the season about Kirk Cousins, forecasting and foreseeing that this scenario would occur, and they're not going to have to pay full freight, and they're not going to intend to pay Kirk Cousins full contract. But if the Falcons were to trade Kirk Cousins, his $27.5 million base salary guarantee right now would transfer over to the acquiring team, and the Falcons would be responsible for just $37.5 million of his proration against their cap. So my guess is that they look to trade him, that they're going to have to give that acquiring team, pay down, I don't know, half that money, maybe a little bit more, maybe the majority of that money, and the other team takes on the remaining balance of Kirk Cousins, just like the Houston Texans once traded away Brock Osweiler and a 2 to the Cleveland Browns, so the Browns could take him, and they got a 2 for taking him in his contract. And I think we've moved into that territory with Kirk Cousins, but I do think that there will be some teams that might have some interest in trading for Kirk Cousins. But the fact of the matter is, it is months, not even a year after they sign him, and he's already done in Atlanta. It is a startling transformation, and it does go back to draft night when they used the 8th overall pick on Michael Penix Jr., because you knew once they drafted him that Kirk Cousins was on the clock, and he was on the clock a lot faster than people expected he would be. And now the clock has gone off, and now the question is, where will he be going in 2025? But the overwhelming chances are it won't be in Atlanta, and it will be with one of those other teams, and the Falcons will be carrying those cap charges. And oh, by the way, one other thought on this, we'll just bring this up, being that we're going to be going into Bill Belichick with Lawrence Taylor. Can you imagine if the Falcons had gone ahead, as they were planning at one point, to hire Bill Belichick? Would Bill Belichick have spent $100 million on Kirk Cousins and drafted Michael Penix? Would he have done that? I would venture to say no. So they'd have Bill Belichick, and they wouldn't be in the spot they are today. And here's the great part about it, and we're going to see in the coming weeks, if Michael Penix is good and he plays well and they make the playoffs and he bails them out, nobody's going to remember that they squandered the money and didn't hire Bill. But they got a lot riding on Michael Penix Jr.
Well, and this is why everyone killed him on draft night, Shefty. We talked about it. It was like Kirk Cousins had no cachet in that locker room. Like, he did what he did in Minnesota, sure, but you play, life comes at you fast. How many weeks ago was it when Kirk Cousins set the, single game passing record for the Falcons? Damn near throws for 500 yards. Everything's great. He's doing the gritty. He's dancing, all that kind of stuff. But then we said, hey, 2 games, 3 games, he plays bad. Not only are the fans going to start calling for it, you're going to get people maybe in the locker room who aren't, it's like, hey, we have a chance to win the division here. Let's go with a guy who can do it for us. It just, I don't know. It made no sense from the beginning, and you knew that they're going to face criticism if this ultimately did happen. Let's say someone doesn't trade for Cousins, Shefty. Is there a world in which he signs like a Sam Darnold 1 year, $10 million deal with someone next year? If you just look at the history of Kirk Cousins, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's okay with paying or playing for $10 million. Now, I guess if that's all he has available to him, maybe, but
I don't think he's made so much money. I really don't think the money is going to matter. I think the question he's going to have to ask himself is, do I want to keep playing? Do I want to move forward? Or have I made enough? My Achilles isn't right, and I'm going to call it a day. Like, I'll be curious to know the things that he says about that. He'll handle it like a pro, because honestly, he's so good with these things, and he handles these things so well. If he doesn't, I'll be surprised. But I think that's a personal decision he's going to have to make this offseason. Do I want to even come back and play again and put my body at risk? Or have I had enough? Have I made enough? Has my body taken enough? Have I put my family through enough? They moved from Washington to Minnesota, Minnesota to Atlanta. His wife's family is from Atlanta, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Does he want to now go move to New York or New Jersey or somewhere else that needs a quarterback again when he has all? I don't know. These are all the decisions that he makes. But I think it's pretty clear he's not going to be playing quarterback for the Falcons, in their words, moving forward.
Absolutely. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Just crazy. Really crazy how this whole situation unfolded, but that's life in the NFL. Let's move on to topic number 3, Shefty. Christmas, Christmas season, all that kind of stuff. One of the best things I think about the NFL is when we see these different videos of whether it's a quarterback, getting gifts for his linemen or, one of the different position groups and they're getting gifts from someone. What is the coolest holiday gift that we've seen this season so
Oh,
far?
I got to say, forget about the coolest holiday gift this season. It may be the coolest holiday gift I've seen ever. I've covered the NFL for 35 years. I don't think I remember anybody giving out a gift as cool as the gift that the Dolphins linebacker, Anthony Walker Jr., gave out this year. Anthony Walker Jr. gave each of his Dolphins teammates their former high school jerseys with the right numbers for Christmas. And when you watch the replays of it, which have been around on social media, and you see these guys' reaction, and you see how happy they are to get their high school jersey with their number on it. And again, to me, at this time of the year, the best gifts are the most thoughtful gifts. I have so many thoughts about how thoughtful how did he find out the high school that each of his teammates played? There are 52 other guys on that roster. There are the practice squad guys. So he's got to find the high school that everybody went to. He's got to find their jersey. He's got to find the number. He's got to get the jerseys made. He's got to box them up for the whole team. Like, there's so much thought that goes into that. That is, to me, I can't think of a cooler gift. We've seen quarterbacks give out watches, and I've seen golf carts. I've seen all sorts of fun, wild things. I don't think I've ever seen a gift that thoughtful, that required as much time and energy as Anthony Walker Jr. put into that to put smiles onto the faces of his teammates. If you haven't seen the videos, go onto the Dolphins website. They played some of it. Just outstanding that this guy would take the time to come up with that and come up with something that meant so much to so many of his teammates.
With that, yeah, I mean, you could spending money's one thing, and obviously those guys aren't going to turn down when they get the big green egg or a golf trip and new golf clubs. But like you said, the amount of legwork that he would have had to put in to get this done is remarkable. It really is. And then getting them all if you're doing something like that, you would imagine there's some sort of snag. I can't imagine how many calls he was fielding, a shipping issue, or, you need to answer this question, or how are we going to get it? It is really cool. It's a really cool situation. And, when we do see here's a watch for the guys, here's, a cooler with a bunch of meat, a year's worth of meat or whatever. We've never seen something like this before. It's really neat. And it's nice to see, someone really embracing the holiday spirit and the holiday season and not just throwing a bunch of money. Although I can't imagine that was cheap either, with
no. And maybe somebody was working with him, but I'm going to guess it probably cost $150 a jersey, guessing, right?
Definitely. Oh yeah.
It had, getting everything together, it had to cost him 10 grand, I'm going to guess, off the top of my head. But it doesn't matter. Like, the thought behind it is pretty incredible.
And like you said, all these guys have all the money in the world. They can buy anything they want. So like that genuine, excitement that we saw in the videos from because you're not expecting something like that. It was really awesome.
It was a personal touch.
It was, exactly. Speaking of a lot of people getting in the spirit of giving and goodwill, Schefty, let's move on to topic number 4, and something that I know is very near and dear to your heart and something that you love, and that's the Michael Gehlken fantasy charity. I don't really know much about this. Can you tell me about this, Schefty?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I want to highlight this because every year I think it's incredible. Just like we're talking about Anthony Walker Jr. being thoughtful. Well, this is Michael Gehlken, the sports reporter who created 9 years ago Champion Causes. This will be the 9th year of that charity. And he's going to post about it on the morning of December 29th. He'll post on Twitter, on X, a list of more than 20 players and their corresponding charitable causes hours before the slate of games that day that will largely determine fantasy championships. And it's guided by the holiday spirit and Champion Causes database. Fantasy winners have donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to nonprofit organizations since 2016. A prominent example, Alvin Kamara rushed for 6 touchdowns on Christmas Day in 2020. More than $70,000 was donated to the son of a saint, a nonprofit that supports fatherless boys in the New Orleans area. A portion of those funds went toward the purchase of a shuttle vehicle that afforded safe and convenient mode of transportation. So basically, on the morning of December 29th, Michael Gehlken publishes the charities of 20 plus huge fancy players. So Chase Brown, I'm sure, will be there this year. Devon Achane, whatever charity they support. And he invites people who win fantasy championships on the back of these players to donate a portion of their winnings to that player's charity of choice. Ninth year it's done it. It's raised a ton of money, a lot of money for a lot of great causes. I always think that it's awesome to do that. It's great because fantasy championships mean so much to people. I know I was eliminated this past week in the opening round of the playoffs in both my leagues, 0-2, really good seasons, and then one and done just like that. It's over. The dream is over. But there are going to be a lot of people that are really happy later in the season when they win their fantasy championships. And it'd be nice if you win a couple $100 to take 10% of that, 20% of that, and donate it to a couple of the players that were instrumental in helping you win a fantasy championship. Great cause by Michael Gehlken. Love that he does it, and think it's awesome.
Yeah, I love this. I obviously have heard of this. I didn't know exactly who did it or who kind of spearheaded it, but I think luckily over the last several years, this has started to pick up quite a bit of steam. We hear the different. It's not just Bills Mafia sending money to some player who helped them get into the playoffs or whatever. I feel like as each year passes, I do see more and more people very appreciative of certain guys on their fantasy teams and, reaching out and saying, hey, how can I donate a portion of my winnings to your charity? So awesome situation. I'm glad people continue to do that. Hopefully people continue to do that into the future. Let's move on to topic number 5, Schefty. From the NFL to college football, what do you see with all these new GMs and a lot of different colleges looking for a GM? What do you think that means as a whole for college football?
We talked about the trend earlier of behavior. I think there's another trend. Bill Belichick, again, takes Mike Lombardi, a former NFL general manager, a former NFL executive, to his school to become the general manager of North Carolina. Already this year, we saw Andrew Luck become the general manager of Stanford football. We saw Adrian Wojnarowski leave ESPN to go become the general manager of St. Bonaventure basketball. And I can tell you that there are going to be more and more hirings, and every school is going to start deploying a GM because these colleges are now being run like businesses and they need somebody to juggle the salary cap and figure out how to allocate their money and what they should and shouldn't be spending their money on and which players they should be bidding on the transfer portal. Like, it's a whole new world out there, which feeds into the whole new world that we're talking about at the beginning of the podcast. And these schools now are going to need these GMs to do these jobs. And these jobs, these GM jobs, are going to pay 7 figures a year now. And so there's going to be a whole wave of people taking these jobs. There are going to be a lot of people in NFL front offices who have been waiting to get interviews for GM jobs or waiting for GM jobs, who don't get those jobs, who go take those GM jobs at the college level. Every college is going to wind up hiring a general manager. There's been a whole new industry, a whole new job market that's being created right underneath our noses. Again, Michael Lombardi, Andrew Luck, Adrian Wojnarowski, we're just scratching the surface. There are going to be more that make this move. So it's another trend as part of the changing landscape of college sports. I think you're going to see the defection of a lot of front office members and NFL front offices to colleges to take these jobs. Even last year, Jake Rosenberg, who used to help manage the Eagles salary cap, left to run a consulting business. He could go get a GM job at the college level if he wanted. There are going to be more people like that, and I think you're going to see a whole lot of that coming up here in the near future, Ty.
I agree, and we talked about this on Pat's show. You almost wonder if NFL teams, too, down the road a little bit, will start just that'll be the new pipeline. You look at who's done it successfully in college, because it seems like every time the GM cycle comes up, obviously people in the league know, but to the the common fan and even people who follow the NFL religiously, I think you see a lot of these GM names and it's like, oh, I've never heard of this guy. You know, he was the pro personnel guy for the Ravens or the
Yep.
Niners or whatever. But I think you're right. At this point, colleges don't really have someone in place who knows how to deal with all this kind of stuff. And this is the perfect example of college football becoming the NFL. It would make sense. Why wouldn't you have some guy from the NFL who has, some experience with it come in and run everything? It's not as, the cap is obviously much smaller, all that kind of stuff. I think you're exactly right. I think we're going to see a lot of people, like a defection go down to college football and say, well, what the hell? Maybe the pressure won't be as insane as it would be in the NFL either. I'm going to, like you said, be making seven figures and I can carve out a nice little legacy here. And then we'll see a GM job will come open in the NFL and I can bounce right back.
It's happening. It's going to happen. You're going to see a lot of people leave this offseason, and it's going to continue to be a wave of people that leave the NFL or leave wherever to go take these newly created general manager jobs at the college level.
It's crazy how fast college football has changed. But let's move on to the sixth and final topic of this week's Six Pack Schefter. You talked about it. I mean, it is Bill Belichick going to North Carolina is just the atom bomb that, we're still kind of sitting in the debris trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of people have been thumbing through his contract now and looking at his buyout and circling a couple areas, redlining a few areas and saying, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. What stands out to you the most about Bill Belichick's buyout?
Well, the buyout is $10 million. And if he leaves North Carolina at any point before June of 2025, which I don't think he will do, and I don't think he intends to leave by that time. But if he does, the buyout is $10 million, to which NFL teams are looking at and laughing. They're laughing because Bill Belichick is making $10 million. Let's say in a universe where Bill Belichick was down there at North Carolina, it didn't work out. He wanted to leave in a month or two, or there's an NFL team that comes along and says, Bill, we want to hire you. We want to give you a 4-year, $80 million contract, $20 million a year. Are you in, Bill? And he is under contract to North Carolina. Well, you know how simple it is to take care of that buyout? All you have to do is say, Bill has to say, you know what? Instead of 4 years, $20 million a year, just give me 4 years, $17.5 million a year, which is still $7.5 million more than he's making in North Carolina. And he just paid for the buyout. He just paid for the buyout by lowering his average contract annual salary $2.5 million over 4 years. The $10 million is taken care of like that. And if he's down there a year, the buyout then shifts to $1 million per year. $1 million. Please. So in other words, he's obligated to North Carolina for 1 year at the cost of $10 million. And after that, that's nothing. That's like me reaching that $1 million to NFL owners, Ty. I'm going to reach to my wallet right now and take out a $20 bill. Like, here you go, Ty. Okay. That's the equivalent of an NFL owner parting with $1 million, me reaching into my wallet for $20. It doesn't mean anything. So Bill took the bird in hand. He went to North Carolina because that opportunity was there. I believe what he says. He didn't go there to leave there. He wants to stay. He's intending to stay. He's not looking to go to the NFL. But should he ever change his mind? Should that opportunity ever arise? It can be done. There's nothing holding him back, whether he wants to go a month from now, a year from now, or 3 years from now. He can go back to the NFL if he ever decides he wants to do that whenever he wants, no matter what the buyout is now or next year or in any year. The buyout is meaningless here. But for the time being, he is in North Carolina. And who would have ever thought that the great Bill Belichick would be in North Carolina? Chris Boomer had a great line this past Sunday. He said that everybody is focused in on Bill Belichick trying to catch Shula. Well, he's still trying to catch Shula. He's 13 wins away from catching Mike Shula at the college level. So we'll see if he can get that done right now.